Gino's East is one of Chicago's most famous deep dish pizza places. They've been open since 1966. And there are still some people who don't realize Gino's East is here in LA now too. And let me tell you, it feels like you're in Chicago when you're in there. I'm in there most every Friday, and it feels like home. Happy hours from 3 to 6, Monday through Thursday. Get $5 drinks like Stella and Dark Horse Chardonnay, and $6 eats like spinach artichoke dip, garlic breadsticks, and a jumbo bowl of fries. There's so much great stuff on the menu, I always have a difficult time deciding what to order at Gino's. My go-to is probably the tavern pizza, cheese and sausage. But when I see someone next to me eating a deep dish, my mouth starts to water. Then I see the Italian beef with giardiniera, and I want to snatch it from the waiter's tray. Gino's East of Chicago in Los Angeles was named Best Pizza in the Southland by LA Times readers 2 years in a row. It's more than just a Chicago restaurant. It's one of the best restaurants in LA. Check out the friendly confines of Gino's East, LA today, on the corner of Coldwater Canyon and Riverside Drive, just off the 101. See you there. Sit back and relax. It's time for peanuts, popcorn, and Cracker Jacks. Hey, how's it going? I'm your host, Jeff Santo, and I'm here with my wife, Christie.
Hello, hello. So before we get started, I want to ask you, or I want to mention, last episode, Arthur Polano kind of called you out for, well, I don't know if he called you out. He just mentioned that you were spoiled growing up, and you reacted, you were a little triggered.
Mm-hmm.
And so I want to call you out on that and just say, hey, it's okay to admit that you're a little spoiled growing up.
But I don't think that I was spoiled in that way. Okay. Now, as a kid, yeah, I look at it more as we were fortunate. Spoiled is a spoiled brat. And did I think I was a spoiled brat growing up? At times in my teenage years, I think I had a spoiled mentality. Okay. That's a little different. Okay. Spoiled brats are people that think they're the one, and the mother and father just, treat him like, he's a king or she's a king. I feel like that wasn't going on in our arena. So, yes, were we fortunate? Yes. Did people perceive us to be spoiled? Absolutely. And maybe I get defensive about it because I think people think
the stigma?
Yeah, right away. That, oh, you're a spoiled guy. Oh, you think you're somebody because your dad was somebody.
Right.
So that kind of always had me feel, but if you really dissect what being spoiled is, it's really being immature and unaware of like who you are or what's going on because you're not taking it in that other people are like looking at you a different way than you see yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So.
And there are some spoiled moments. I mean, I have to say, just and even in your adulthood. So
yes.
The first baseball game you took me to, we had we were privileged to get these tickets, and there we go to our seats and we're sitting in them and I'm thinking this is fantastic. We're in the second
tier.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. And I'm thinking this is great, better seats than I've ever had at a baseball game. I think the only time I ever been to a baseball game before that was in the Giants, and it was like in the upper.
Gotcha.
$15 seats.
Right.
So I was thinking, this is fantastic. And you're like, no, this is not, we're going to go down there. And I'm like, what do you mean? This is our seats. And you're like, no. So you were very entitled and I felt like you can sit anywhere in the ballpark that you wanted.
Well, I guess I do feel entitled when I go to a baseball game. Yeah, I guess it's how I grew up, right? It's like we really never got in a seat for that long of a time when we were growing up. Ronnie and I would roam. We'd find our seats at the end of the game would be in the clubhouse door on the field, looking out on the field, right, and seeing Billy in left field. So, yeah, that mindset always stayed with me. So I always felt like when I got near a baseball field, yeah, you could call it entitled. I'd say it like missing my home. Right?
Aww.
Bring me back home. And if I get into the home, this is how it used to be. I didn't sit back here.
I bet if you could, you would live in the scoreboard.
Right? That would be fun. Bring me a lot of cannabis. And
oh my God, it'd be smoking out there. I'd be like, Jeff, it's there.
It'll be one big party up there. Oh, that would be something else, right? Hang up there for a while. Wow.
So one of these days you're going to have to take me to the bleachers because I've never sat in the bleachers.
Oh, yeah, we got to do that.
Yeah.
That's fun.
This
That's an
summer.
experience. Well, let's maybe in August we get back there.
Maybe.
Let's do it. Yeah.
Yeah. Even if our seats are actually behind home plate, let's just walk around to the bleachers and then come back.
Oh wait, I don't know if I can get away with that at Wrigley today.
Oh, really?
Okay. So I don't want to look at as being spoiled. So whatever ticket we get,
We're
take.
sitting in them. We're taking
sitting
them.
in
We're very grateful.
Right. Yes. My dad's not here anymore. I don't get the same perks. That's what Arthur was talking about. It stopped. And at 12, it kind of did end a little bit there. But
Oh, wait. The end? Wait. What do you mean?
what's that?
You mean not your spoiled privileges? Because
Well, when baseball ended, the spoiled privileges at Wrigley Field
at
went
Wrigley
away.
Field did.
Yeah.
Yeah, but then your brother got a car when he was 16. He got it,
Yeah, and
then you were looking forward to your 16, so that way you can get a car.
But I could never match Ronnie's. And yeah, maybe I had okay, spoiled. Like I said, my teenage years, my parents were divorced at that time, right? And so I think, yeah, I had a spoiled mentality in my teenage years because I was a little lost and searching, and however long that lasted, I apologize to people if I was kind of like angry and who knows what.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but I do think being spoiled, anyone could be spoiled.
Oh, for sure. No.
An adult.
I think I was spoiled a little bit. I'm sure that, my friends could probably call me out on a few things. I mean, I wasn't like, Woodside, rich, which is in Redwood City where I grew up. There's Woodside Hills and,
Right.
and those are like the people that have horses and, giant estates and things like that. I mean, I wasn't like that.
You were middle class. I saw your name. It was
Yeah.
nice. Good middle class back in the day, right?
We had cars and
Yeah.
toys and, we
had a nice
went on
life.
lots of trips and lots of
Right.
vacations and
Right.
yeah.
So, were you spoiled? You know what though? I got to say this. You have a way of like saving things, so I wouldn't call you spoiled so much.
Yeah, I
You-
almost sometimes live like I'm poor.
Yeah, and you save meals that you put them in the fridge.
Oh my gosh.
And
People, let me just tell you right now. Okay, I live like a normal human being who makes food and has leftovers. Jeff is privileged and entitled in this,
Ooh.
where he thinks that, once you have it, you can maybe have
maybe
one leftover.
One leftover. Two.
But that's it. Two more than one is just unacceptable.
Your taste buds change. What can I say? Seriously, and the food's not as good after like the third leftover. So
that's not true.
is that being spoiled? Because I'm actually getting offended by the food in the refrigerator. So to me, I'm repelling from the spoiled possibilities of the food.
That's a different kind of spoiled.
Well, hey, if you could smell it and taste it, it's
It's
bad.
not- it's not-
spoiled.
but
Whether
it's
it's
not
a person.
bad.
What's that?
But the food's not bad.
Okay. Listen, after the second one's not bad. The third one, it's a little different for me, babe. I'm sorry. It's
Tell
nothing
me a
personal.
time you've ever had a third leftover.
I don't think I have because I
Maybe your mom's Spanish rice.
maybe, but that goes fast. You have a different way. Like I do think though I share more than you, so maybe you're more spoiled in that arena.
Okay, granted, that's 100% sure. I'm definitely less generous, and I
Why do you think that
admire
is?
that about you. I think that is because, and this is an interesting thing. I think my mom, she grew up poor, one of
Mhm.
7, so she coveted a lot of things, but she was also very generous. So I don't know how it missed the mark.
Your mom missed the mark on you?
I just don't know. I mean, I wasn't forced to be generous. I don't know. Maybe it was sibling rivalry. I don't know.
Yeah, I wouldn't say you're not generous. I would just say some things just
I didn't have I had girlfriends growing up, but they didn't come over to my house. So I didn't have like that sharing kind of thing. I didn't have sisters.
right. You didn't have a
So,
sisterhood or something like that. I
yeah.
had more of that in my life.
Mhm.
I have to say, there's a lot of brotherhood around us growing up. Yeah, you got independent real quick.
Yeah, exactly. I
Yeah.
wanted to leave
And
the
that's-
house. So I left my house and went to my friend's house.
Right.
And then they would share and, we'd play
Yeah.
with their toys,
And I think you didn't. That's why you didn't have a spoiled mentality because you did get independent quickly. And I think having a spoiled mentality like I said, it could happen to an adult too, right? Where they forget where they are, where they came from, and you can just sense it. You're stuck in your bubble or whatever. And so I look at being spoiled now like a carton of spoiled milk. Take it out of the fridge, get it out of your life, move on.
Okay, but if it's only been there 2 days, it's not spoiled.
True. 3, it's starting to get there. Okay. All right. Let's move forward. Yeah, I guess that's a good observation. I think I'm better now.
Wonderful. This podcast is doing wonders for our mental health.
It is. We got a great show. Can't wait for you to hear it.
Enjoy.
This podcast is brought to you by Bernie's Tap and Grill. It's family owned and operated since 1954. Located across from Wrigley Field on Clark and Waveland. My dad hit a few home runs on the Waveland Avenue, and Bernie's was my dad's favorite place to go. It's got delicious food, 4 full-service bars, an awesome beer garden, a sidewalk patio cafe, and a cool upstairs area. It's the place I've always met my friends at before and after games. Go on by and tell Linda Dillman Jeff Santo sent you. Bernie's Tap and Grill, where you go when you go to Wrigley.
Hale Hill Auctions is Chicago's premier partner in rocking your fundraising goals. We strategize everything from one-of-a-kind auction items to big-time sponsorship acquisitions. Hale Hill Auctions is your VIP, very important partner that you need to maximize your fundraising. Head over to halehillauctions.com and be sure to tell them Santo sent you. Hale Hill Auctions, where money raised is love saved.
My special guest was the first person to welcome me to Los Angeles in my Hollywood pursuit back in 1994. He has represented professional sports teams in every sport, television companies, individual on-air talent of names we've all heard of, country music stars, entertainment moguls. I compare him to Gabriel Match's character Harvey Specter in the TV series Suits. I don't think I've ever been around a more consistently positive person. He grew up in my neck of the woods in the Chicago suburbs, knowing the Polanos and the Bonellis. He got a few major league lessons from my dad in the '69 Cubs when he was a kid wanting to play baseball. A dear friend of mine, Scott Zolke, so good to have you on the show, man.
Well, you know what, Jeff? I had to stop for a second. I thought you were talking about somebody else, but hey. But then when I heard about the lessons from your dad, which, by the way, I still wouldn't be able to hit an inside pitch had your dad not told me how to get the barrel out in front. So, God bless him. He added 50 points to my batting average in high school for sure.
That's great, man. First question I got to ask you: when you were a kid, what did you want to be when you grew up?
Oh man, I always wanted to play for the Cubs. And from the time I was old enough to know who your dad was, who Ernie Banks was, who Billy Williams was, who Fergie Jenkins was, who Don Kessinger, Glenn Beckert, I wanted to play for the Cubs. That was my dream in life, was to play for the Chicago Cubs. And I didn't quite achieve that dream, but let me tell you what, I spent a lot of days in Wrigley Field as a kid, and I'm spending a lot of days at Wrigley as an adult. I was blessed to be able to be at the 3 of the World Series games back in 2016. So I will tell you this, although I didn't get to fulfill my dream, I feel like I've lived it, being a part of that storied franchise, obviously knowing your family and the few times I got to hang out with your dad and all the other crazy Chicago Cubs, whether it was Yosh Kawano hanging out across the street at Ray's bleachers. What a great bunch of people.
Yeah. I got to say, man, you always bring an exciting personality into a room. It's pretty remarkable. I mean, it's real. Where did you get that from, man?
I don't know, man. I stay fired up about life, and I said, I've always, I was the kid that always saw the glass half full instead of half empty. And I just, and by the way, I'm going to tell you something. I'm going to give you a great life kind of analogy about the beauty and the wonder of playing baseball. And you played it for most of your life, is that it teaches you at a very young age how to manage failure. Because if the greatest hitter in the history of baseball was 4 for 10, Ted Williams, he was failing 6 times out of 10. And for those of us that weren't blessed enough to succeed 4 out of 10 times, who struggled to get close to 3 out of 10 times to to get on, it just really makes you appreciate the fact that you can be successful and not have to have every little minutia be success. You got to find success in the failures. And I just always live by the credo that, hey, look, I'm happy to be here. I'm happy to be getting a chance to do what I do. And I've lived a very blessed existence because I've gotten to do some really fun stuff. And, you, my daughter, I mean, how many of us get to have a kid that's, I grew up with a daughter who, if I could hit the way she hit in softball, I'd still be playing, Jeff. I'd still be playing.
Yeah, right now, let me ask you this. What route, like literally, what path, what highway brought you to become an entertainment lawyer? I mean, you grew up with the Polanos, you grew up, you went to Niles North, right?
Niles West.
Niles West, that's right, Niles West. And you're older than me, so were you closer to Artie Polano or Billy?
So Artie and I were the same grade, but I would say that between Artie, Billy, and Ricky, it was like the four amigos. Like they dragged me everywhere. I dragged them everywhere. We were just all buddies as kids. And it's amazing. Here we are 60 plus years later. Yeah. And we're still all buddies. And Karen Bonelli was part of that group. But I think, Jeff, if you grew up around the Polano household and the Bonelli household, yeah, you were already in the entertainment business. Right. So, yeah,
right. I mean, there's no doubt.
You know something? If you just took some of the real things that happened in our households back in the 60s and put it into a sitcom, people go, how the hell did you come up with it? I said, no, these are not ideas. This is just me reliving being a kid with these people. It was it was a lot of fun.
How did you get to know those guys? You went to Niles West. They were Holy Cross guys. Tell me about that.
Well, but remember, we all lived in the same neighborhood. So we all went to Fairview Junior High together. So we all started in kindergarten at the public school right there. I mean, literally, the Polanos and the Bonellis lived on the cul-de-sac behind the school, and then I lived on the street behind them. So my backyard, which was just effectively a prairie, opened up onto their cul-de-sac. So we were at each other's homes all the time.
Yeah, we played at that school all the time in their backyard. That was the school you're talking about that you went to? Oh my God, I was there all the time.
That was Fairview's. Yep. Yeah. And by the way, if you ask Gene Polano, he'd tell you, no, that's just my backyard. Well, no, it was the Fairview athletic fields.
Right. But there was also, I remember there was a field, and there was also like, we came back there like even in high school and had home derby off that big wall by what was the street there that was Jack's Restaurant was on?
Laramie.
Was that Laramie?
Yeah, it was, Skokie. So Laramie ran into Toohey, and on the corner of Laramie and Toohey was Jack's Restaurant, which used to be Jake's. Used to be Jake's. And that became Jack's, or maybe it was Jack's. But it was the place where I first heard the expression, we've thrown away the key. It was 24/7, 365.
Right in your backyard, right? We would actually go there on the way back from Rush Street, even, whenever. In our 20s. But my buddy's father owned that restaurant, went to high school. So
it was iconic. And it was the hang after every event, whether it was a basketball game, whether it was a school function, everybody went and hung there.
Yeah.
And then, years later, it became popular because they had the ticker tape. So all the sports junkies and those of us who would financially endorse a team or two, you'd sit there and watch the scores come in.
Right. No, that's I had no idea you were on the other side of that.
So our house was just to the south of the street that the Polanos and Bonelli lived on. And then our backyard was a prairie. So you could just walk through my backyard, take a couple steps through this prairie area, and you're right in their street.
Yeah. Now let me ask you, why didn't you go to Holy Cross? What was what was that about?
Well, largely because I really wanted to go to school with the kids from the neighborhood, you know,
With
and I know
girls.
the Polanos and the girls, you know, girls guys, but you know, because Karen went to Niles West, you know,
Oh,
so
okay. Okay.
she
That's how
didn't
you
go to
guys
Mother
became good
Guerin.
friends. I got that.
Oh yeah,
Okay.
I mean, there were all the,
Yeah.
you know, but you know, the funny thing was most people in our area went to Notre Dame. And it was the Polanos went to Holy Cross because they had a relationship with Frank Mariani, who was
Yeah.
the coach down there.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And that did. But I'll tell you a funny story about Notre Dame. So there was another kid who was 3 years older. His name was Greg Luzinski. He played at Notre Dame,
Right.
and
Yeah.
we're playing them. We're playing them in the state Niles West against Notre Dame, the state sectional, and I'm catching, and I hear my coach Jim Phipps screaming, "Don't throw him a curveball!" So of course I put down the middle of the finger, and next thing I know, the ball's 460 feet parked into the next
Yeah.
township,
Yeah.
and coach says to me, "What'd you pitch him?" I said, "A fastball." He said, "Why did you do that?" I said, "Because you told me don't throw him a curve." He says, "I was trying to set him up for the curveball." Like, don't give a guy who eats garbage cans for lunch. Don't give a guy a fastball that he can
Right.
extend on. Throw him junk.
You
And let
didn't,
me tell
yeah.
you something, Jeff. I'm very proud to tell you that we didn't show him anything other than curveballs and sliders in the dirt for the next 3 innings.
You're like, you got to let me in on that one, coach. What the hell? You know, you're in high school. How are you going to figure that one out? You can just listen to the orders. Yes, sir.
I was very specific. Yes, sir. No curveball. Okay.
Yeah, no,
Fastball.
yes, here comes the
Boom.
fastball.
Boom.
Hey,
I think they're still looking for that ball in Fond du Lac,
oh,
Wisconsin,
man.
by the way. Like,
Well,
holy Toledo.
all right. I'm gonna jump into like literally how did you get to LA, man? Like how did you
Oh,
reverse whatever course you went, it was a different course than most people
so yeah.
you were hanging out with.
Because remember, I spent 9 years as the associate athletic director at Georgia Tech. So I was
Okay.
down at Georgia Tech and decided 8 or 9 years, into my tenure down there that, I really don't want to take the next step to becoming an athletic director, the athletic director. I was happy being an associate athletic director. And at that point, many of the people that I was close with left to go to Alabama with Bill Curry. And so I decided, you know what? I've always wanted to go try this thing in Hollywood. So
Why? Where did that come from? Where did that
I
come
just, media. By the way, spending all those years at Georgia Tech, where I was involved with,
Talk about that a little bit. What were you there at? You were
so I left my law practice in 1982 to take a job at Georgia Tech at the urging of Bill Curry, who had been the head football coach there for a couple of years. Bill and I were very close. And Bill just said, I think you'd enjoy this. There's a lot happening in college athletics. There was no ESPN yet, so we hadn't had the impact of television. There was just so many things going on that it kind of, it was like, hey, look, if you're going to do this, do it when you're in your late 20s. You can always go back to being a lawyer. And so I did. And I had a great time. And in fact, with the advent of ESPN, I got in the middle of all the TV negotiations because I was the only lawyer in a position, of athletic administration. Most athletic administrators were former coaches.
Mm-hmm.
So I got the lion's share of deals thrown to me. I served on the TV committees and got right in the middle of everything, as the TV rights started to explode for football and basketball. Then we had the explosion of corporate sponsorships. Back in the days, bowl games were just the Orange Bowl, just the Sugar Bowl, just the Rose Bowl. Now, everything is Tostitos and FedEx and,
Right.
So I got in the middle of all that. I got to negotiate these corporate sponsorship deals. And then, you got to the point where, okay, we want to renovate the football stadium, but we need, $10 million more than what we're able to raise from donors. So why don't you go across the street to Delta and then walk across the street to Coca-Cola and get them to subsidize this renovation and we will give them naming rights in the football stadium, which they got. And that's how we did the renovation of the football stadium. So after doing all this, and then deciding I didn't want to stay as an administrator, I just picked up and moved to LA, joined a law firm, and did what I just kept doing what I had been doing at Georgia Tech, which was, media rights deals and, sponsorships around sports and live entertainment. And then just out of, the way things happen when you're running in those circles, someone said to me, hey, we're involved with this country music organization. Could you take a look at this TV contract we have with CBS? I'm like, sure. Next thing you know, I'm into country music, So here I am, a kid from Chicago who never heard a country song in his life, goes to Atlanta, still never heard a country song I know in my life. Now I'm living in LA. Now I become a country music guy. So you can't explain it. Just crazy.
Wow.
And by the way, I'm speaking to you tonight from Nashville. So I'm back in the middle of it,
Wow.
So it's crazy the way the dominoes fall. But you know what, Jeff? I've always believed, you make your own luck. You got to stay at it. You can't, kind of like baseball. If you don't get a good lead off, you're never going to steal a base. And you don't know when you're going to get that opportunity. So you got to get a good lead. If you get a good lead and you're ready, you get a good jump, steal a base. I feel like I've been stealing bases for 40 years.
Wow, man. I mean, yeah, you've been here a long time in the heart of Hollywood.
Almost 40 years. Yeah,
I remember when I first met you, and then we got to know each other. And
yeah,
we've went to a few games together. But I remember you saying, I remember saying at one time, like, Scott, I'm gonna get a job to supplement my income. You're like, supplement your income? You got to have income to supplement it, Jeff.
That's correct. As I was
Hollywood.
By the way, as I was picking up your tab at Taco Bell, my friend.
Yeah, the drive-through. Oh, man.
In the drive-through.
Oh.
In the drive-through. There are no bicycles in a drive-through. Come on.
God. That was funny, man. But, I got to say, you've been in a lot of big negotiations for sports teams, selling, buying. And let me ask you this. Is there a winner and a loser in those type of negotiations?
No, by the way, specifically with professional sports franchises, everybody wins. And it's not a two-party negotiation, whether you have a municipality or a state stadium authority or licensing authority and a club. There's always three parties to these deals. And the third party and the most important party is always the fans. You gotta put the fans number one. And what I found in these deals, whether it's buying or selling a team, moving a team into a new arena or new stadium, if you really think about the fans and you think about what's best for the fans and what do the fans really love about this experience, and then you negotiate, you get to a much better place, club versus, authority, or buyer versus seller, because it's really always about preserving the integrity of the franchise, preserving the integrity of the club. And, there are, listen, we all know the Cubs are one of the most popular professional sports franchises on the planet. But, you go down to Arlington, Texas, and there's a lot of people that tell you the Dallas Cowboys, are the most popular professional sports franchise, on the planet. And you don't need to drive much further than Atlanta, Georgia to be told, no, it's the Braves or it's the Falcons or it's the Hawks. So you really, one of the things I always love to do is I always love to go to, talking about the Buffalo Bills deal. I've been working on that stadium deal the last 4 years. I spent a lot of time in Buffalo, not so much because I had to go to meetings in Buffalo, but because I wanted to go out in Buffalo and meet people and talk to people and really find out what's in the DNA of a Buffalo fan. And I got to tell you something, they're a close second to Cubs fans, the Bills fans. And what you learn about that following is when we were talking about a location for the new stadium, and there was a big push from a lot of the elected officials to let's come back to downtown Buffalo where the team started back in 1972. When you talk to the fans and you listen to the tailgating experience that they have out in Orchard Park, which is just 6 miles outside of Buffalo, but it's got wide open spaces. You really learn how important that experience is. Yes, they're going to a football game. They love their Bills, but they love that tailgating experience.
Mm-hmm.
And those crazy people get out there at 7, 8 o'clock in the morning for a 1 o'clock kickoff. And if it's 5 below zero or it's 75 degrees, they are out there at 7 in the morning tailgating and getting ready. And so that's why you really got to pay attention to what the fans have gotten embraced, what they love, why they embrace this franchise to try to make that, kind of make that the focus. And then when you do that, there really isn't, oh, I won the negotiation, you lost the negotiation. It's like, no, we had everybody win. The club wins, the community wins, the fan wins, and that's how you sustain a franchise so that it's still here in 50 years, 100 years, whatever it is.
I got you. And I've watched Suits, so I got.
You watch Suits. My daughter's favorite show.
No,
and I'm gonna tell you what I always tell her. That show doesn't come close. It does not reflect what we do as lawyers. So it's not
you know what? Anyway, but I do want to say the competitive part of it. Like, you have a competitive edge. I know you're a competitive guy, but you do things fairly, and I get it. And you go hard. Now, is there one core boundary or belief that you carry into these rooms? Because it has to be a battle, right? You're on one side, there's another side.
Yeah.
Is there a core belief or a core boundary?
Core boundary. I mean, you stay within the ethical bounds. So you use all the tools you have and you use them within the rules, and I know a lot gets portrayed in Suits that it's like, well, that would never happen because that guy loses law license. Or
I'm not talking ethics. I'm talking about you, like, personally. Do you have something like, if this goes a certain way, I'm going to feel this part of it, and now I know I move this way, or I know.
Yeah. So you know what it is? You know how you look at charts and stats, as a catcher, as a pitcher, as a hitter.
Right.
It's that. So you really prepare yourself for your opponent. And even if it's a deal, like let's litigation, very, very unique because litigation is easy. I can Google a lawyer. I can find out every case that he's litigated, argued in front of an appellate court. I can learn what his skill is. I can learn what his tactics are. So I know what's coming. I don't get caught off guard. In transactions, it's really interesting to know, well, who did the other lawyers represent? Did they represent owner A, owner B, city, state, whatever? And what deal did they work on? Because every deal is different and leverage changes. So, I think my real, gauge, if you will, is the first thing you got to do is you got to understand your leverage. Sometimes you don't have any leverage. So you got to really just come to grips with the fact that you got no leverage. Other times you have all the leverage. Now, when you have all the leverage, that doesn't mean that you go, gangbuster and crazy, because deals will explode, over an overreach, but at least you have leverage. When you don't have leverage, you prepare to get the concessions that you think are the biggest. You go through a list of, in my wish list, if we could get A, B, and C, and then I go to the core of, well, what do we really need to accomplish? And then if we can get the essence of what we need to accomplish and pick up one of 5 or 6 items on the wish list, you really do leave a negotiation feeling like you did as well as you could do. And that's really what it comes down to, Jeff. It's not winning or losing. It's not success versus failure. It's, hey, did you leave it on the field? You've been there. You play great and you get beat. You get beat by a better team. You have to accept that. But you look back at your performance, say, did I do everything I could do? Yeah. Right. Then you're okay with that. And it's like that in deals.
Gotcha. And you're working for big guys. I mean, obviously they're owning franchises. They're and you're going to when you talk about essence, you're talking about, I got to grab something out of here that's part of them, that if I don't, then they're going to feel like they sold out.
Correct. That's exactly right.
That kind of it. So that's kind of use that kind kind of feeling like, hey, man, I got to get something out of this at bat. I'm down 0-2. If I don't, I can't strike out.
Think about 0-2.
Position.
Think about 0-2, runner on first, and somehow you're able to hit the ball the right side and move the runner.
Yeah, you got to do something.
And you know what? And you come out there going, hey, you know what? It goes down as over, but I moved the runner, so I'm coming back to the dugout, not feeling like it was an at bat that I want back. It was like, everybody wants to get on, but you come out of it with, hey, I moved the runner. I feel good about that. You know, and that's the same feeling.
Yeah, the thing is, and the reason I ask you this because obviously from where I come from, I'm out there pitching ideas and scripts and stories, and you've been in a lot of those rooms, the big rooms, and a lot of people don't know, like you just said, you do your research, right? Who am I pitching to? What is going on here? What are they like? What am I bringing to the table now in a pitch room? What are you looking for in that pitch that tells you, yeah, this is something special?
Yep. So one of the things I learned early when I was representing writer-producers, hyphenates of TV series was Brandon Tartikoff, who was truly one of the most insightful, instinctive, gut kind of television program executives that the industry has ever seen. Brandon would start with the first question, and it's a great question. All right, I don't want to hear about the characters. I don't want to hear about the story arc. Tell me what the 100th episode looks like. And you're sitting there, and the good news is, you could prepare a client to go, all right, now look, you're going to be asked this question. You better be thinking about what does the 100th episode look like? And that's how he saw a television series was, by the way, it's why he had so many successful television series at NBC. And Brandon was taught by a guy who has Chicago roots. And, just by the way, there's something about Chicago, and you know this because you've been out in LA now. There are so many great Chicago people who came to Hollywood, who have been really successful. I mean, think about Tom Dreesen, the stand-up comedian.
Mm-hmm.
You got just so many fun people. Gary Marshall went to Northwestern.
Mm-hmm.
The executive I was talking about is Fred Silverman. Fred Silverman started off in the marketing department at WGN, and he was the guy that came up with the idea back when GN was starting to cover Cubs games of hiring those skywriting airplanes to go out over Lake Michigan and write up, watch the Cubs on WGN today at 1:20. And he used that concept to get people to turn on their TVs, black and white, to get a little Jack Brickhouse and watch the Cubbies back in the early 60s. Yeah. Well, Fred ultimately came out to LA, and he is, I think, the only executive to be president of all three of the then major networks. He was president of ABC, he's president of CBS, he's president of NBC. And the guy was a genius. And Fred always coupled it with this. Give me a good story. If you give me a good story, we can develop a television series. But give me a story. What's the story? What's the backdrop of why is this sitcom here? And you think about some of the sitcoms that have become iconic, whether it's Cheers or Seinfeld, you can easily say, here's the story. I mean, Seinfeld's classic. Basically a story about nothing. It's just a bunch of crazy people that all interact with each other. And that's what Friends became, in its own unique way. But, how about an idea of this? Hey, let's go be a fly on the wall of a bar where there's regulars and just kind of watch the daily interaction between these people. It's great TV.
Yeah, no doubt. But what do you feel like? That is it the person that you got that you're looking at? Is it obviously the story for sure? But because over the years now, I mean, I've been out here for a long time, and it's like now you feel like God, you really understand, and where Hollywood's going. I don't know. That's another question I have for
Right.
you. But I always felt like now it's like the vision of telling a story. When I first told my first movie, I feel like I'm so elevated from that time, but yet it gets difficult to tell the next story, right? And
Right.
do you
Yeah.
look at like obviously experiences so much, but the person who's bringing the story, how much is that a part of a decision? You think in those big rooms?
Well, some of the biggest casting, it goes to casting, where I pitches get greenlit with a conditioned on casting. And so, yes, you've got to have a story. But now, in a day where, and again, back when there were 3 networks and there was only so much shelf space, for television programming, and back in the 60s and 70s, programs stayed on the air a lot longer. They weren't like 13 episodes and gone. They would get a little bit of a run. Casting becomes such an important part of a good story. It's not just, is it a good story? Most importantly, is it a good story?
Right.
Now let's go cast it. And if you find those characters, and it, as we've seen over the years, you can have relative unknowns come in and capture. I mean, maybe the greatest, Henry Winkler, when he auditioned for Happy Days, talking about Gary Marshall again, who created and produced that show. That character was, maybe he was going to be in 4 episodes, but it was always built around Ronnie Howard and the Richie Cunningham character and the Cunningham family.
Right.
And Winkler comes in with and creates this iconic character in the Fonz, that the Fonz runs away with the show. And by the way, the show stays on the air for a lot of years because it was a great story about, growing up in a small town, in the 60s, but it became even a better story because of the characters that delivered the lines.
Little different time, obviously, to do that now. But what you're saying there, which I believe in, is like bringing that new star forward, right? And finding whether he was meant to be the lead or not. He develops into something. I feel like I don't think the names so much today, like, oh, put this name in here. It is a chemistry. It is a story and chemistry, and the experience around that story and chemistry to be brought to fruition. Because I feel like now maybe the independent film can come back. I don't know. What's your thoughts on where Hollywood is going, the direction of it?
Well, I do think independent film can come back, and a lot of it is being driven by the fact that now that we've become a streaming entertainment, model, where it started with just the technical of, we got to make sure that we can deliver content to people anywhere at any time. So the old days of, you got to sit in front of the TV on a Sunday night with a family, those days are over. You want to consume content, consume it anywhere. You want to be on an airplane and consume it on your iPhone. You want to be in a house consuming it on a laptop. You want to be out at the beach or at a park watching it on a tablet. It became about delivering content to mobile devices and creating lots of it in a digital world. But with all that said, we now have the need for thousands of hours, whether it's feature film or whether it's television. We have the need for thousands of hours of content, which has caused us to get much less niche and much more broad-based. However, saying much less niche still gives niche an opportunity, because with so many different platforms, you can take a niche project and find a home for it because there's so many different places to put it, which is why I think independent films are going to find a resurgence, because A, they're typically, those are the films that are launching relative unknowns, and B, people in an independent will take more chances than if I'm over at Paramount or Warner Brothers or Sony with a big budget going, all right, we've got to stay within our cookie cutter, our cookie cutter outline of it works this way, that way. I mean, one of my favorite movies of all time, Warner Brothers film, Casablanca, it was truly that they didn't have an ending. They casted it, and they start shooting it. And in the middle of the shoot, the writers were still trying to figure out, well, does the guy end up with the girl? Like, what happens at the end? Like, what? And then it was like, let's throw a total curveball. Guy gets girl, guy loses girl, guy gets girl, guy lets girl go.
Like, guy lets girl go. Yep, there you
go.
Yep.
Just lets her go, and ends up with his corrupt buddy going, this is the beginning of a beautiful relationship.
Hey, man. He felt good about giving someone else freedom. That was
exactly.
There.
Yeah. So you're being altruistic. I'm looking at it. It's like, no, you know what he's doing? He's counting dollar bills. He's like, the two of us, we're gonna make a lot of money.
There's a little heart at the end there, man. He was gold. He got a heart at the end. Come on, Scott. But here's the thing, man. Like before, the way you did it, it's you put a name in there, but why aren't we seeing more of like that surge of let's get a distribution outlet for these independent films? Why has there always been a tough route to distribution on independent films outside of the system?
2 words, Jeff: risk aversion. Risk aversion. Studios have one shot typically a year to have a hit that then pays for the half a dozen failures that they've distributed over the year. And so you become very risk averse. And when you're risk averse, you don't want to think outside the box. You don't want to say, oh, I love this idea. And this kid that nobody's ever heard of is so, engaging. Oh no, we can't do that. Let's go with, the A-list actor that we're going to overpay, and a script that's been written, rewritten, polished, rewritten again, that we think has the right formula. And I mean, it's like a roll of the dice. I mean, people that come to me say, I want to invest in the film industry. I'm like, you know what? Go to Vegas. Just go to Vegas. Play craps. Get the poker table. You got a better shot of making some money. And you produce your own independent films.
I do know. But let's say though you get with a strong team and okay, you have a vision here. But if you just have that, don't do it, go to Vegas. But there are gems that do it, right?
Yes.
So you're not taking that in consideration of, okay, let's look at this one because of who is involved and what it's about, and where we could take it and what we could do it for. The amount of budget, it's less, so there's less risk on that. Now, do those movies, do they have a chance anymore? Like to do a $1 or $2 million movie and outside of the system, shot well, acted well, and now you present. Who do you present today?
Absolutely. And you know what? The Amazon Primes or the Netflixes of the world and the Apple TV Pluses, they're all looking for that stuff. Here's what they'll tell you. They won't take the risk. So if you want to go out and take the risk and shoot something for $1 million or $2 million and you come back and it has that feel, you're going to sell it in a heartbeat. They're never going to finance it. So it really comes down to the entrepreneurial spirit of, we're going to go make this movie. I believe in this movie. It's got a great story. It's got a great message. I love the chemistry amongst the cast. Let's go do it. And then we'll take it to a festival. We'll take it to 3 festivals. And you know what? And that's where the Netflixes and the Prime videos and the Apple.
And what are they
TV
paying
Pluses
for? What are they paying for something like that today, Scott? So they are the ones. They are the buyers now. Festivals, the Prime, the Netflix, the Disney, Apple.
Yep. I mean, on a straight negative pickup, you can get $3 to $5 million dollars. But here's my, what I'll say to, if I was representing you in a sale to a Netflix, I'd say, let's take enough so you cover your costs and put a little something in your pocket, but let's not grab every crumb. Let them have a little space, because if they get behind this with marketing dollars, and this becomes something bigger, then you've got yourself basically,
Another movie.
An annuity that buys you the next movie, because you know how it works. Like, we got to go talk to this guy.
Yep.
Like, he's maybe he can give us another one of these. Like, and that's the craziness of Hollywood is it's like you're nobody, and then until you're somebody, and then here we are.
And even if you're just a small somebody, you could become something bigger by just lasting and understand. That's a lot of it too, right? Just kind of existing and lasting. What would you say to some young filmmaker today? What route would you tell them? I mean, you went a certain route. You went, the lawyer route, because you got that under your belt, and now you got to figure out how Hollywood works, and you obviously did that. So what's the advice you give out there to
follow
guys?
Follow your passion. Mm-hmm. Keep your head up. Follow your passion. Meaning, don't put your head down and follow your passion. You'll walk off a cliff, or you'll bang your head on a wall. Yeah. Keep your head up, eyes open, and follow your passion. And it really is about that. And because what you do is, with every step you take, you learn something. You learn, and part of the experience is, I mean, Hollywood is a door in your face kind of, like, I can't get a call return, you can't do this. I mean, it's the classic example of, the Wright brothers, Thomas Edison, where you just stay at something because you believe in it.
Right.
If you don't have that passion and believe in it, you're gonna get bored. You're gonna move on. You go, well, I gave it a try, it didn't work. You really got to stay at it. Success comes, some people find it early. Maybe one of the greatest examples of success that didn't get recognized until years and years is Jimmy Buffett. Jimmy Buffett couldn't sell a record. He has a kind of a moderate commercial hit with Come Monday, but he can't sell a record. But he stays at it. He's got a passion, and he becomes one of the highest grossing touring acts in the history of the music business. And then all of a sudden, 25, 30 years later, now people are buying his records. But in the early years, the first 10, 12, nobody bought his records. Radio wouldn't play his music.
And he's authentically living a lifestyle that's him. And that's
totally did. He followed his passion. Yeah. What you saw was who he was. It wasn't an act. It wasn't, I've got to do this because my people tell me to. No. Yeah. You got him raw. And guess what? That sells. And so I really believe that if you truly follow your passion and you believe in what your passion is and you stay at it, you can find success on different levels. And Buffett showed it because, as I said, he couldn't get radio to play his music. He couldn't get records. But, man, people start showing up for his concerts.
Yeah, and I agree, man. The older you get, too, you just look back and go, the more authentic you are, and have a vision, have a plan, right? It's like that's what we're talking about when you go into negotiations. You got a plan. You know what you're going up against. Don't be delusional, because this is a land of delusion to a lot of people that come out here, think that someone else got it and they can get it. No, man, there's so much behind it. Lasting anything out here, first of all, it's hard to live out here today. It's expensive, right? I mean, it's just there's a lot of stuff. But I love what you're saying. It's so true. But you do think, like, now we're coming into that again. There's a lot of people needing content. But if you can take the risk, and it's a risk where you contain it and have a vision, you got a shot to sell it. You believe in that.
Exactly right.
Okay.
You got to believe in it, because if you don't believe in it, if you go up to the plate thinking, oh shit, I hope I don't strike out, as opposed to, okay, I'm looking. You got to go up there believing, believing. You got to see a ball like a beach ball, not like a ping pong ball.
Yeah, that's
right.
Let me ask you about life rights. All right, we talked about this a little bit. Like a public figure, can someone write a story about them by just getting their information off the internet and not have to pay for it?
Absolutely. Wow. Any information in the public domain is completely, the beauty of our Constitution, Jeff, is that the First Amendment really does give a lot of freedoms. And one of those freedoms is you have a right to research and to write your story, assuming you're not writing, inaccuracies that become defamatory.
Right.
But you can write a story about anybody in the public eye based on public information. That changes if there's a private story, something that is not known.
Okay, but I got you. But if they're public, so you got to take all their public stories and
correct.
Private.
You have to use information in the public domain as opposed to private information that was gleaned by some. Then you get into clearances. Now, the reason lots of people in the life story rights arena like to get the rights from the family, and I'm thinking the Ray Charles story that was such a great movie that actually really good friend of mine, client Stuart Benjamin produced. It took him 20 years to get the rights from the family because he wanted access to really tell the story.
Yeah, you need access like that.
You had to have access.
You have to, yeah.
And you had to get the buy-in from the relatives to say we're okay with you doing this.
Right.
And it was a wonderful movie. It took 20 years to get those rights to then be able to tell that story, as opposed to just doing a story that anybody knew, we all knew.
Of course. Yeah. Sometimes you like to use the truth part of it, but that's the part that why you have to use it, because the true story part of it makes it work. Now, I got to ask you, like, for sport stories, my buddy Rob Weiss, who I wrote with the Hells Angels for Fox 2000, he did Ballers, executive on there, Steve Levison, and now they were able to use like the Miami Dolphins in Ballers and other NFL teams. How can that be? When I remember when I was doing Jake's Corner with the Heisman Trophy, to even get like any kind of rights to say, oh, you're allowed to use it, was a pain in the butt.
It is. And I'm actually working on a series now with Major League Baseball, and you and I both have been down that road before. Yeah. It's a pain in the ass to get the rights you need. Again, if you're just using logos or references,
you can use logos. You can use like the Miami Dolphins helmet. They did, so they didn't pay for it. I heard they didn't pay for it.
Well, they may not have paid for it because Major League Baseball may have said, you know what, this is a nice promotion. Just throw it in the movie.
No, I'm talking about Ballers. I'm talking about Ballers and the Miami Dolphins.
Oh, okay. No, okay. Those are treated. So those licenses are negotiated at the league level. So those licenses come from the league, and you're exactly right, because the league sees those series as promotional vehicles for the National Football League.
Really? Because I always felt that, well, when you're going in and what they're doing off the field, the league might not like, right? So, Ballers is kind of, but so that's what I wonder. That's what they're nervous about, but they warn on that one. I don't even think do they have to get the rights nowadays? Like if I did something, you have to go and get the rights to the logo
if you wanted to follow a team around, you at the bare minimum, you've got to go in and get an access agreement that lets you be there. Then you've got to get releases from everybody that's going to be appearing, in the series.
I'm talking about a story, a scripted one. I'm not talking about going on. I'm talking about they didn't have to get permission from the Dolphins or the NFL.
Oh, yes, right. When you're doing a fictional account of something. Well, here, let me back you up.
Okay,
ESPN had that show. Remember ESPN's Playmakers? It was on for a year, and then it got killed. And it got killed because the NFL didn't like the way, because it got a little crazy with sex and drugs and like what.
Right.
And so the NFL said, you know what, we would prefer you guys not bring this back, especially because you've got Monday Night Football. So it'd probably be good for you not to bring this series back. So they didn't.
Right.
But you're right. You've got literary license because you're writing fiction.
Okay. So the real story you have to. I got you.
Exactly.
Okay.
You're writing fiction. And, and there's, inspired by, it's all this. But at the end of the day, if you're going to fictionalize and you don't disparage through your fictional.
Well, that's objective. Come on,
and that's right. I mean, and guess who's going to be the ultimate arbiter of that? It's always going to be the league saying we didn't like the way that came across.
Yeah,
so you're done.
That's when you're in a pro. But they weren't done, and so they let it So they're being a little bit more lenient, NFL. I don't know if MLB.
Yeah, I think it's because it's look, we all know who's watching stuff like that today, and it's a younger audience. So
Interesting.
What a bunch of 60 and 70-year-old billionaires might think isn't necessarily what's in the best marketing interest for the league today.
Yeah. Last question for you, Scott. Thank you so much for being on. What was? Do you remember '69? What do you remember about it?
Everything. I spent my entire summer up until 2 days in football at Wrigley Field every day. Every day, I went over the wall when Holtzman threw the no hitter. I had my yellow, hard hat with the left field bleacher bum logo on it. I was too young to have a beer at Ray's left field bleachers, but I had my share of peanuts and hot dogs out there. So I remember everything about '69. It was heart wrenching. Yeah. And then we went on and actually had a great. We actually won the Central Suburban League Conference in football that fall. So I was playing with a chip on my shoulder all fall.
That's awesome, man. It's been great to know you, man, and thank you for helping me out here in Hollywood. You've always been kind to me, man, and I really appreciate it.
Well, I appreciate you having me, and I'm looking forward. I'm going to hold you to a game with Olivia sometime in the summer where we just go out and talk baseball again, drink a bunch of beer, and
let's do it.
And and do what we do. We so much history. There's so much history to talk about.
I'll be in touch with you before that, man. I got a few things I want to talk to you about for sure.
I love it. All right, buddy.
Thanks, pal.
Thanks for having me, Jeff. Have a good one.
Awesome.
See you, bud.
Thank you, Scott. See you, pal.
All right. Bye-bye.
Talk soon, though.
This Santo moment is brought to you by Onesti Entertainment. Ron Santo grew up in Seattle, Washington, in the inner city neighborhood known as Garlic Gulch, Seattle's version of Little Italy. Just down the block was Sick's Stadium, home of the Seattle Rainiers, the AAA team for the Cincinnati Reds. Ron worked at the stadium throughout his childhood and teenage years, from concessions to grounds crew to the bat boy, and finally to the coveted job as clubhouse boy, where he cleaned spikes and shined shoes for Major League prospects like Vada Pinson. That Santoid was brought to you by Onesti Entertainment.
Crackerjack.
This call is being recorded.
Hello?
Karen
Hello?
Bonelli. Karen.
Hey, hi.
You're my crackerjack. It's Jeff Santo. How are you? It's been
I'm good. How are you? Way too long. How are you?
God, you're probably looking at my number like, whose number is this?
No, actually, your program did my phone, so I knew it was you.
Oh, wow. Great.
That's why I answered. Normally, I don't.
Right. I was thinking you weren't for a while there. Wow. Oh, good to hear your voice.
Good to hear you.
I got to ask you this.
Sure.
How was it to be you growing up in the testosterone environment of professional athletes and brothers? I'm referring to the Polano brothers, who you literally grew up next door to. What was that like for you?
Well, that was really something. I mean, it was like having all brothers for absolute certain. And the adventures that they had and that we had together some were amazing. Some were, Billy always gave us a lot of interesting adventures, Billy and Artie.
Were you Billy's age or Artie's age?
No, I'm Artie's age.
Oh,
yeah.
Artie's age. Okay.
We're the same.
Got it.
And then, there was, of course, all the Big Gene adventures, which were also just amazing. I tell people that, and they really do. They think I'm lying. Like, I told this story once. I was in high school, and Big Gene was at the office, and he called. He goes, "Karen, I'm not going to make it to pick up the kids. Will you pick up the kids at school for me?" And I said, "Well, sure, I'm happy to, but I don't have a car." And he goes, "Oh, it's okay. Go in the house," because, our houses were always open.
Right.
He goes, "Go in the house in the cupboard where the keys are and just get the keys to the Silver Cloud." So there I was, a teenager, driving a Silver Cloud Rolls Royce to pick up the kids at school.
That's hilarious.
And, people are looking at me like, and I went, well, what can I tell you? It was the only car in the driveway. So
right, and you were at that age where you took it all in, like you saw it up close, like you and Arthur. I mean, the oldest there, and
yeah,
wow, you what was that? What was the environment like? I mean, because you were next door to the Polanos, we were always over there. I can just remember your door now. It was on the side of the house, right?
Yeah, I mean our door. Yeah, I mean our doors were always just. I mean, they were always open. We were always together,
Yeah.
And, like even Eugene, who was obviously, youngest of the brothers, even when he was growing up, I mean, he used to leave his house, when it was bedtime and, Dee and Uncle Lou, I want to come sleep at your house. And he would sleep over all the time. I mean, it was that kind of relationship. It was that close. Yeah. And then, it went on. It continued on through the Chicago Winds, and so when I sent that picture where it said Mad Men, I lived because when I worked for the Winds, our first meetings were at the Polano and Sons insurance offices, which were in Park Ridge, if you remember. Wow. And so, Gene, I don't know, I think I was 20. And so, they said, can you get everybody a cocktail? Well, I didn't know how to make cocktails. I didn't know what I was doing. So, sure, I'll get it. And, there were some pretty big names in that room at the time. I don't know, should I repeat those or not? They were big. Right, they were big names in there.
No doubt. And here's the thing, like growing up like you did, like the guys are like, oh, I want to play baseball. What were you thinking? Like, is it showbiz? Because it's kind of part of showbiz that you were around. Yeah. What were your thoughts on that?
Well, I mean, I used to play football with the boys when I was younger, Wow. I mean, and we were, your dad, I mean, the moms used to go, you have to take the kids to Wrigley with you. We're busy today. And he'd throw us all in the car and we'd go down Ravenswood and we'd sit, along the third baseline and, it was a different day. Nobody bothered us. We sat there all day and then home we came when the game was over,
Wow.
And,
yeah.
And I'll tell you,
your dad, Louie, and your mom, I remember your mom just being such a strong presence and an elegant woman.
Yeah.
And then your sister, Debbie, and, just the pizza place. Talk a little bit about that for me, because I don't remember like you guys do.
I'll tell you a funny story that I just got a call from a gentleman named Peter Regis who does the history of pizza in Chicago. So he found me because my grandfather had one of the first pizza places in Chicago in the 40s. Wow. And it was called Congress Pizza, And then he and my grandmother got divorced. Then my grandmother had a pizza place in Oak Park called Pat's Pizza.
Oh, wow.
And then my dad opened on Devon Avenue, Il Forno, in 1952. Wow. And then he expanded. I think he expanded all over the North Shore.
Yeah.
And, he was obviously a big part of Pro's Pizza when they all started. And I do remember a funny story.
A lot then, right? I mean, obviously, because your dad's doing this as a business. What's he thinking when, Gene goes, hey, we want Ron to have a place?
Oh, I don't know that I remember too many details of when your dad opened his place.
Okay.
Because then I was older and starting, my life a little more. You know what I mean?
Right.
So I wasn't around as quite, but I do remember when Pros was in Wrigley, and I said to my dad, I'm a kid. I go, this is great. I said, Dad, I need a summer job. So, Wrigley, ask Ron, you guys, can I have a summer job? And so I said, okay. So I guess they put me in the vending room slinging pizzas in the vending room. And I went home. Oh, no, I'm not kidding. True story. And I went home and I said, Dad, I said, I don't mean to be rude, but all the women in the vending room maybe have one full set of teeth, and I am not working there this summer. I was a teenager. And so yeah, that's what I did. I was slinging pizzas in the vending room. Pros pizzas.
Did you stay there? Did you stay working there?
No. Oh, God. Oh, God. No.
That's so funny you say that.
It was about 180 degrees in there.
You couldn't find you something else, like promotions or something?
Oh, I thought this is so cool. I'm going to be an usher or something, or be near the booth. I thought that, I know people. So, I'm thinking I'm getting a cool job. That's the job I got.
That's hilarious.
I know. I said, I'll go find my own job. Thanks.
That's right. And, it's funny because, do you think we were spoiled? Would you call us spoiled?
Yes, I would.
Oh, geez.
I absolutely would.
Okay.
I know. We were lucky. I'll call it lucky. How's that?
Well, which job was kind of spoiled. That job you left, because that's kind of I said, spoiled mentality I think we had at times, but we always had, like, people, like, looking at us that if we went too far, you're going to get, you're going to get in trouble.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh,
so
yeah. They would never.
So I'm like, we were fortunate, I would say.
None of our parents would let us out of line like that. As a matter of fact, I have older grandchildren now, but I have one that's still a younger teenager, and I look at her, I said, if I ever did something like that, I would have gotten it handed to me, because it's rude or obnoxious. Were we spoiled? Yeah, we were a little, whatever car we want and all that, but never rude. I mean, if we ever got out of line, we were humbled in a hurry. All of us.
In a hurry. And so that's why
in a hurry.
In a hurry. And I also look at it because I was just growing up over the years, more so my teen after baseball, being a kid, like 1 to 12, I'm in that world with everybody, and then baseball ends for my dad. A little different. Then I kind of I always knew that over the years people would say, oh, he's Ron Santo's son. He probably thinks he's this and that, when that's not the truth, because there's so much more to it. So the spoiled part of it,
your mother would have never let you do that anyway.
Right, and my dad would have. He would have been. There's no way. I was always scared of my dad if I did something.
Yeah.
So the thing is, though, I do think, we were fortunate, and there were times I look at being spoiled as like someone being a spoiled brat or spoiled milk. We weren't brats. We had enough people to put us.
No, never.
So
never.
Or we like you saying, I'm not working that job. I had the same thing. I'm like, no way. I should come to Wrigley and have a better job. Is that spoiled, or is that like? What is that?
I go, Dad, I can go to the park district and work at the pool. I mean, 180 degrees in the vending room. I didn't think that was unreasonable.
No, I don't either. See, then someone would say, "Oh, you're being spoiled," but probably because there's, it's not a great job, and
really,
but, This just.
I think I was probably spoiled, thinking I was getting a great job, but boy, did I get humbled, right? I got the vending room.
And I look at being spoiled too, kind of like, it's, mentality. The times if you're not aware that you're being obnoxious, then you're kind of in a spoil. Anyone could get that way as an adult too. So it's like, anyway, it's funny we're talking about that. Now, as 69, do you remember much about that year? Were you into it?
Oh, sure. Yeah, sure. I mean, I was a teenager. The whole city that's all it was about, that. So sure. Yeah, I remember that, just the excitement.
Yeah. Right. You had to be, because.
And the disappointment was that I remember.
Yeah.
Heartbreaking. It was heartbreaking.
Yeah. So you were following the whole year, because my mom, telling me, because I've gotten more into just the psychology of everything of that year for our family, right? And she said she would watch the games at home and just hate watching it. Like she would still have to watch it on the TV, and they're losing the games. That had to be tough. I mean, it
was tough.
You're older. I was young, so I don't know how much I took in of how tough it was, but I do remember, all the excitement. But boy,
yeah, some of the fondest memories, though, our spring training trips were so much fun. We had so much fun.
Yeah, we did.
And obviously the only, bad trip is when your dad lost. Yeah, that was bad.
Yeah,
that was terrible.
That was a tough one.
But that was really tough. But the other times that we all went, your mom, my mom, we were all there and just, laughed and had such a good time, and great stories. Yep. It was such a tiny field back then. Spring training, it just strikes me so funny. It's such a big deal now, and it was so little.
It was so little and quaint, just the retirees would go to the games, and so
I mean, we just kind of walked in. You didn't think anything of it, So
and it's great. I wanted to get it's so cool that you picked up the call, and I want to talk to you because your family was a big part of our family, and being so close to Polanos, and then but everything like you guys were around, and the pizza and the. So I just wanted to get your perspective too, because we're all these guys, right, thinking they're going to be ball players because they're in that environment. I'm like, what are you guys thinking you're going to be? What, did you have any thoughts of that?
Well, I think that to this day, I think that my sister and I for sure, already too, because, we see those guys all the time still,
right.
That, we're sorry we didn't keep a lot of it. You know what I mean? But when things for them were closing down, we were young. We were raising our kids, and, that would have been tough at that time. But that's one of my biggest regrets because, there's still one Il Forno open in Deerfield that my dad sold. But Mike, who my dad brought up, and he had one of the Highland Park restaurants, and he only closed maybe 4 or 5 months ago. So they were open all the way up until now.
That's amazing.
And so
that's amazing.
Yeah,
and
it was.
I had Scott as my special guest, Zolke, on this episode, and talking about how you both went to Fairfield, and you went to Niles West.
We both did.
Yeah.
Zolke and I both did. Yeah, I see him all the time.
Oh, I know you do. You got you're
okay.
Together at Wrigley and stuff. Yeah, I know that because I keep in touch with you. So we were just talking about.
It was just his birthday, actually. We went down. Some friend of his owned some bar we went to. I see him all the time. Actually.
And you guys went to grade school together, right? At that field, right?
Oh, yeah.
Outside the Polano's house, there, right? Nestled in front of Jack's restaurant that we would go to a lot.
He was on Pratt. And we were in a little bit, but he was on Pratt. He was right by us too. Yep.
Yeah.
And
amazing.
So his sister was there at his birthday.
That's great. That's great.
Yep.
He helped me. Helped me when I came out here to Hollywood, and has always stayed in touch, and which has been very cool. So.
And he's just his career is just spectacular.
Oh God, the things he's done, no doubt. Yeah.
I know. I know.
Absolutely. Well. Karen, so good to talk to you. I hope I see you.
Please
soon.
call when you get to Chicago so we can get together.
I'm going. Oh yeah, we'll all get together. I'm hoping maybe in August I'm going to be there. There could be this kind of cool event. Onesti Entertainment might do one for this old Cub, so I'll let you know about all that. Okay.
Yeah, let me know. I'm gone a little bit. I know I've got a couple trips in August, but hopefully they won't. Conflict.
Okay. I'll let you know. And say hello to Debbie, all right?
I will.
So cool having you on. All right.
Great talking to you.
Karen. Yeah, you too.
Okay.
All right. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening to our show. Special thanks to our cool crackerjacks, Scott Nelson, Jim McCauley, Debbie Foley, Sherry Matarisi, Terry O'Brien, Gary Tallman, Anne Marie Pascule, Jim Mule-Schlegel, Liz Rutherford, and a new cool crackerjack.
Mac McPhillamy. All right, Mac Attack.
Woo-hoo. Welcome to the team. I tell you, man, we're getting a good squad going here.
This is awesome.
Please, if you want to become a crackerjack, sign up now on our Patreon page.
Mm-hmm. And we're going to be giving away a Cool Crackerjack Club t-shirt to our Cool Crackerjacks when they've been with us for a long period of time.
We're going to get one of those. And we're also going to be selling Peanuts, Popcorn, and Cracker Jacks t-shirts.
Yes, we're going to be having those. Those are available for pre-order now.
Right on. So purchase one, please. Support our podcast. We greatly appreciate it.
This show is made possible because of all of our subscribers, whether it's our Patreon subscribers or our Apple subscribers. And if you want to be a cool crackerjack yourself, subscribe on our Patreon page. Click the link below this episode or go to the Patreon tab on our website, www.peanutspopcornandcrackerjacks.com.
And remember to click the follow button for the next episode and leave a review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify.
We just got a new review.
Yes,
thank
we
you,
did.
Thank you.
Thank you
One
for
of the greatest reviews. That's amazing.
Yeah, appreciate that.
And don't hesitate to write. Give us suggestions. Tell us how you like the show. Email jeff.ppcpodcast@gmail.com.
For my closing quote, I never smile when I have a bat in my hands. That's when you've got to be serious. Hank Aaron.
Toodaloo.
SantoFilms.com, the place to buy This Old Cub DVDs, posters, and This Old Cub t-shirts. Get yourself one now at SantoFilms.com.